With both houses of Congress having now returned from their summer recess, a clash is expected in the coming days regarding government spending and our bloated federal budget, not to mention the $32 trillion in debt that we have. With government funding set to expire on September the 30th and just 10 legislative days scheduled between now and then, what can we expect? Joining me now to discuss this and more, Utah Senator Mike Lee. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Budget Committee. Senator Lee, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tony. Good to be with you as always.
I appreciate you taking time to join us. I know it's busy on Capitol Hill. You were a part of the House Freedom Caucus. They had a press conference earlier today. You and Senator Rick Scott of Florida joined them in a sign of solidarity. You're encouraging House Republican leadership to do what?
Well, we're encouraging Republicans in both houses of Congress to make sure that we get out of the mess that has created a $33 trillion debt. And we've got $33 trillion in debt because when Congress passes spending bills, each item is packaged together into one gigantic bill. Everything's tied to everything else. That bill, which materializes from the ether with help from a handful of appropriators and an added push from the law firm of Schumer, McConnell, McCarthy, and Jeffries, just materializes magically hours before the expiration of a spending period. And then members of Congress are told you've got to take it or leave it.
Right. With
no real chance to amend it, to improve it, to cut excessive spending, to add things that need to be added or take things out that shouldn't be there. And they're told you've got to vote for this or you'll cause a shutdown. Most members buckle at that point and they vote for it sight unseen. This is a barbaric practice, and this is why we're so far in debt. Because what happens is we pass these massive bills. This year, that's going to cause about a $2 trillion annual deficit.
Which is up from the previous year.
It perpetuates Democratic priorities. What's that?
The debt or the deficit this year of nearly $2 trillion is almost doubled from the previous year.
No, that's right. Because we continue to spend like drunken sailors at a time when we can't afford it. Everything is getting more expensive. We're allowing government to get more expensive, not requiring any kind of economizing.
I have to correct you on that, Senator. Drunken sailors can't spend that kind of money.
Oh, that's right. And really, my comments are an affront to drunken sailors everywhere who deserve more credit than be compared to Congress.
Let's talk about the way forward here. I mean, I think we're probably in the strongest position we've been in a long time. We actually have a strong conservative contingent in the House that is demanding we do things differently. What about the Senate?
Yeah, so we've got a contingent in the House with the House Freedom Caucus demanding that things be done differently. We've got a contingent in the Senate who are also demanding that we do things differently and that we prepare ourselves against what we call the uniparty. There's this almost mysterious invisible force that impels people toward wanting to support these bills under the structure that I just described and to look out for it and to demand that we get something better than that and that we actually have something that we can hang our hat on. Because more often than not, Tony, what emerges from these things, these bills put forward by the uniparty, by the law firm that I mentioned, and the handful of appropriators that write it, these bills tend to unite the Democrats, more or less a 100% join rate among Democrats, and also divide Republicans. So a few Republicans join together to facilitate whatever it is that the Democrats want to pass, and they facilitate the passage of a massive Democratic priority bonanza.
And it happens time and time again. I mean, we see the same
time and time again.
Same thing rolling out. As you mentioned, they put you up against the wall with a CR saying, if you don't pass this, you get it the last minute. You don't pass it, the government shuts down. That process has somewhere somebody's got to draw a line and say, you know what, we're not moving. We're going to hold our ground. Is this that time?
Well, I think every time should be that time. This should have happened years ago, but I think we're finally at the point now where in both houses we can make it a little bit more difficult for the uniparty forces to act as they have in the past. And look, we're not imagining that with Joe Biden in the White House and a Democratic majority in the Senate, that all of a sudden everything that emerges from the Congress is going to consist of conservative priorities
Right.
and a massive overhaul of everything. No, we understand that the sky is not necessarily the limit in terms of conservative policy right now, but there should be something. There should be
some movement.
Move in the direction of fiscal restraint and some move in the direction
Right.
of defunding or deprioritizing
Because
horrible programs being carried out through the federal government that shouldn't be there and that are victimizing the American people.
Very quickly, we're up against a break here, Senator. What can our viewers and listeners do to be helpful in this process?
Well, the viewers and listeners can and should reach out to their members of Congress, senators and representatives, and tell them, do not, under any circumstances, vote for a spending bill that you have not read, that you cannot explain to your constituents with a reasonable degree of confidence, and that you haven't had any opportunity to amend.
Yeah.
That's not too much to ask.
All
And
right.
if we just had that process in place, we could prevent a whole lot of bad stuff from coming out of this sludge pipe.
All right, that's what we'll encourage people to do. Senator Mike Lee, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you, Tony.